Hey everybody, welcome back out. Zach again here with Stormwinds. Let's start talking about some of the administration and management over at the 40 Manager. One of the first things you have to understand is the ADOMs, the administrative domains, and what they do and what they're used for. Now, the administrative domains, some of the things you need to understand is why are they there? You need to be able to describe them, configure them, create administrative accounts and permissions, different types of concurrent addressing, how to use the workspace, when to upgrade, when to troubleshoot, backup, restore, what they call offline mode, some of the event logging and monitor tasks, and all this types of stuff. Now we're going to cover all this, but in the very beginning, this first slide deck here, I'm really going to kind of do a 9-mile overview of ADOMs and what they are and where you would use them. And then we're going to get into the next slide deck, which is really going to get into more details of all this. So let's begin. So what's an ADOM? Administrative domain. And it is exactly what it is. It is a setup inside of the 40 gate, inside of the 40 manager, I should say, where you admin your devices. Now, this is very important because this is how you control and segregate the different devices, different businesses, and things along that lines. So you may want to segregate it by geographic location, business divisions, compliance for you guys that do this and you're into like HIPAA and PCI, PII, and all the other different compliance, you will be using this in that aspect from time to time. Now, ADOMs are not enabled by default. What they mean by this is normally you have a global ADOM that controls everything. So that is what they mean by it's not enabled by default, where you have to enable basically, for lack of a better term, sub ADOMs for control. Now, different types of ADOMs, there's two of them. You have a normal ADOM. This gives you full access to make configuration changes and everything like that. Then you have a backup, which is for where you back up your configuration changes that are directly made on your managed devices. So the normal is where you're going to be doing and accessing and making all of your changes to your devices. So your normal, read write. As we see here, all your management panes are available. So when you log into a normal ADOM, you're going to see this and you're going to see all your different management panes available to you for configuration. Now, when you do backup, read only. And if you notice here, your management panes have been decreased, meaning you can't see all of them because this is read only. So you're only going to be in here when you're doing some type of read only, some type of backup, things along those lines. Now, two modes. Normal mode, which is default. You can add devices to a single ADOM. And this is what you're going to see when you hear the term only one ADOM. And that's true. Now, when you get into advanced, you can give all kind of flexibility into managing your different ADOMs and VDOMs, your virtual domains, across multiple platforms. So your normal, this may be a small business, you're getting in, you have one business you're going to manage, one network, one set of firewalls, they're all managed by the same team, the same group, however you want to term it. When you start getting into events, maybe you're an MSP where you're managing 50 customers. Inside of that customer, each customer has their own maybe geographic area. Inside of each geographic area, it has its own virtual domains on top of that. So you start to get this tiered structure that we're going to talk about here in a second, and this becomes very important in the management of your policies. Because your organization may be by your device type, your firmware, administrative responsibilities. There it is right there. Geographic, customer, organizational. But realistically, I find that most of these are based upon your administrative responsibilities because here's how this works. If you have a global, term global ADOM, any changes in the global policy pushes down to all devices in the global settings. So if you have a block list, say you want to blacklist a site, you go out to the global, you add a site to the blacklist, it applies to everything underneath that ADOM. It doesn't matter what VDOM or whatever, it is pushed down to all unless you specifically say don't do the global. So that is your global. Inside of there, you may have organizational. Inside the organization, you may have shared policies. So you have organization one, shared policy one. Organization 2, shared policy 2. Organization 3, shared policy 3. If a firewall is in ADOM Organization 1, it does not see the shared policy from 2 or 3. And if you take a firewall and you remove it from ADOM 1, you move it into ADOM 2, it now picks up the shared policy from ADOM 2. It does not bring the shared policy from ADOM 1 over. So really think about what you're doing there and being able to create a shared policy inside of your organization. And then from there, you can have specific policies only for certain firewalls. And again, when you pull that shared policy, it doesn't transfer, but if you have a specific policy on a device that is only for that device, if you move it to a new ADOM, it will maintain that policy. Those are the types of things you need to remember when you're going through this as you move things in and out of your organization. And it kind of gets a little confusing, but really think about it as a tiered approach. Global, everybody. Inside of your global, you have specific ADOMs. Inside that ADOM, any shared policy only goes on that specific ADOM. It does not go to another ADOM. And then you have your specific firewall policy itself that will move with the firewall. So just kind of think of that tiered approach on how you can be very efficient inside of your policies and configurations. So remember, a couple different ADOM modes there, configure your ADOMs. We're really going to get into this more so here in the next slide deck. But I just want to kind of give you that idea that you have a normal mode, you have advanced mode, you can have your ADOMs where you configure stuff, and there's also a backup, which is read only. All this comes into play in your organization, whether you're a SOC analyst, whether you're an admin, whether you are a global admin, all these come into play, and you're able to configure and modify these rules and responsibilities depending on individuals. And we're going to show that more into the next slide deck. So I just wanted to lay that foundation for you. We'll get into it here in details in the next slide deck, and I look forward to talking to you then.